Hello, adventurer. It's good to see you. You have made it to the morning grind.
Welcome, welcome.
It's the live stream at the beginning of the Geekverse, where we talk about all types of topics in geekdom, gaming, and fantasy, with an emphasis on being constructive and creating the things that we want to exist in the world.
It's all on the grind, Sizemore. Can't be too fine, can't be too coarse.
That's exactly right. There are a lot of adventures to be had today. Dungeons to explore and monsters to slay, and who knows what a random encounter might send our way. That's why we have to prepare, so settle in now for the morning grind with your favorite beverage in hand.
Tea? Or maybe something a little stronger. I've got a few bottles of the old Wynyard left.
Whatever you want. Pull up a chair. If you're feeling fancy, how about a cappuccino? Or a frappuccino? Or how about an espresso?
Just tea, thank you.
Sounds good to me, Gandalf. Whatever you want. I'm just glad you're here.
Everyone is welcome. You can just watch if you want. You don't have to worship anything you don't want to worship.
Thank you, Mike. But be forewarned.
Sometimes we get really strange characters around here.
Wait, what's that you say? Why can't you come and be a part of the stream?
My wife would disown me.
Oh no, I bet she'll be fine with it. Come on in.
Am I scared for my safety? No.
What are we supposed to do?
Everybody do the secret handshake.
Secret cultist handshake.
Oh, now do wizards who love each other.
This, my friend, is a science.
I still don't have gifts, but it's fine.
It's all on the grind, son. Can't be too fine, can't be too coarse.
Dude, this would be a sick place to bring the band.
Indeed it would be, Dave. It really would. I'm seeing more people coming in. Welcome. Glad to have you here. Oh, look, here's someone new.
Is this the cultist meetup?
Yes it is.
Come to hang out? Please accept me. I have nothing else.
Okay, we accept you. Everyone's welcome here.
Brought some snacks.
Well, that makes things even better.
You want some coffee? I don't drink coffee. You sure?
It's cultist coffee.
What makes it cultist coffee?
I'm a cultist and I'm drinking it.
Oh. Then I'll have some.
What exactly is going on here?
I'm seeing more people coming in. Welcome. It's so great to have you. Oh, and look, here comes another stranger.
Can we help you?
Yes, fellow cultists. I could really use some food.
Oh yeah? Welcome. We have donuts.
Oh, it's me. I'm glad I'm here. I'm sure you have a few questions for me, though.
What's your name? Who do you work for? What god do you worship?
Great questions, Rob.
I'm Steve King, and I worship Nyarlathotep.
No, not really. I'm just Heath, and I won't be worshiping anything this morning. But I will be your host. Welcome to the office. We're going to have a great time. I've got my coffee ready, because now it's time for the morning grind.
If you could become a fish, that would be amazing. Then I could command you with my mental fish powers.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome back. I'm glad to be back. Welcome here to the house. Welcome to the office. Welcome to the morning grind. I hope you're doing all right this Christmas, this holiday season. We still have New Year's to go here, but I feel like I'm glad that I took James's advice. Last Friday, Brianna and I worked basically all day. Got a lot of stuff done, trying to make big things happen here starting at the new year. But by the end of that day, I was just absolutely exhausted. And I realized that, hey, you know what? Maybe James was right. Maybe I should take a few days off of the morning grind anyway. A couple of days I wasn't going to be able to do it anyway because of Christmas and then being over at my brother's house. And then yesterday I was also at my brother's house. So I knew that 3 of those days I wasn't going to be doing the grind anyway. So I did just try to chill a little bit. And I did work, but I was trying to reorganize my thoughts and figure out, all right, listen, I really got to put energy where it really matters coming into the new year. And so I was trying to focus on that. Hopefully everybody had fun. But on the other hand, man, yes, there is so much sickness and stuff going around. It seems like this has been a really chaotic kind of Christmas. A lot of my family Christmas functions were canceled because of either the flu or COVID or having both or whatever it is. And then we were going to have talk to Vic last night, and then Vic was sick. And this morning, Brianna messaged me to say that she's got a family emergency that has to do with one of her family members, and like a real, a real problem more than just sickness and stuff. So, man, I feel like everybody has just been battered this holiday season. So hopefully you've made it through. I know like Sable's been sick. I know. So things have been rough here. So good morning, BGD. Good morning. Zero the Blade. The gang's all here. Sable Phoenix is here. James, good morning. Good morning. Lope. Good morning. Good morning. Good to see you. Robert is here. Yep. I played Hero Quest yesterday. Even yesterday, I went to play Hero Quest with my nephews yesterday because we haven't been getting to do that. So we played 2 games of Hero Quest yesterday, and then we were supposed to shoot the model rockets. I had model rockets that we made earlier, and I've been trying to. First of all, getting the engines was a thing, so we had to get the engines. They took forever to ship and to arrive. And then yesterday afternoon, we went to the park or the high school parking lot to shoot the rockets. I realized I'd bought the wrong engines. Talk about disappointment when you got 3 boys there with their rockets, and you realize the engines you bought actually don't fit after taking this long to get the engines. So now I got to get the right engines, and we got to do that again. So at least the Hero Quest went well. We played 2 games of Hero Quest. We played the one where they're quest number 6, 6, and 7, I believe it was 6 with where they start jailed, and then number 7 where they got to figure out what's going on with the Imperial Wizard. Good morning, Andrew. Good morning. Have I heard of the Witchcraft RPG? I have not. I don't know that one. Yeah, it's been a long time since I've done model rocketry too. I barely got into the hobby when I was a kid, and then for different reasons stopped. Although it would have been something that I really would have enjoyed, being that I was so interested in space. And so I got the boys some model rockets, but man, it seems like it's a complicated kind of hobby. All right, so I did get this in yesterday. So I got this. Did anybody else get this in? The Lord of the Rings, The Ruins of Eriador. So this just in. It came with this as well. The Tales from Eriador. I like this. I like this cover. I mean, I like both of these covers, but especially this one. So we will see what is inside. I haven't even opened them up yet. So we will check those out here in just a moment. Let's see. So I do want to point out, so this, I'm going to try to reschedule Vic for next Thursday. So just pushing Vic off a week. So hopefully he'll be feeling better. I don't know if he can, I haven't checked my email yet. Let's see if he confirmed that. Hopefully he will. But I believe we just slid for 1 more week to have Vic on. But in the meantime, on this Tuesday, we might as well go ahead and do Terminator 2. T2. Put the link in there so you can hit the notify me button if you'd like over on the Table Talk channel. Retro Nerd Girl will be joining us on Tuesday. And so Retro Nerd Girl will be with us to talk about Terminator 2. I didn't know that Terminator was one of her favorite movies. Otherwise, I would have invited her on when we talked about Terminator, but I just didn't think about it. But since she loves it, hey, let's bring her on and talk about Terminator 2. Robert says, doing a video about the D&D virtual tabletop seems to have triggered the algorithm. I scooped up a few more subscribers, then it dished out my game's demo too. Oh, cool. I have not. I saw some people talking about the, oh, look. You did. Look who it is. All right, so that's going on. But then also, a lot of the work that I am doing right now and will be over the next several weeks has to do with the relaunch of the Cultists. So if you are not subscribed to the Cultist YouTube channel, it would really help me out as I try to relaunch the Cultists and really trying to do something with it and be able to demonstrate that there's some kind of viable path to doing independent productions and creating stories on the online and making stuff happen. So Brianna and I have been working hard at this. So the Cultist, the first 3 episodes are up right now. I'm trying to create a landing page about the cultists, and I realized that was what I was trying to do a few days ago, and I realized it was I need to do something a bit bigger than I had originally anticipated. So I've been reworking doing a landing page for it. So I'm getting some marketing material together for the cultists, and then we're going to try to do something with that in a big way here over the next few weeks. BGD says, I'm glad to see Retro Nerd Girl joining in for the next installment of the Terminator franchise. She's fantastic. She absolutely is. Andrew says, on Mastodon, I do play the Dungeons bot. It puts up polls of 4 actions for each situation. You vote, and it gives the outcome. Then repeat. Simple but fun. I don't know that. I'm not on Mastodon. Oh, thank you, Andrew. All right, let's... TSL Frumman says, I'll have to watch for the relationship between characters this time, especially regarding John and Sarah and the unstoppable father stand-in. Yes. So, yes, the father character of the Terminator. Okay, let's do our reading this morning, and then take a look at these Tales from Eriador books. All right. I think I'm in the right place. Whoop. So this is good to get back in the habit. I got to get back in the habit of productivity this afternoon. Oh, Lope says, how much do I like Lord of the Rings? A lot. I am a major Lord of the Rings fan. That's my favorite fantasy world. And it's also very important because there's a lot of family connections too to Lord of the Rings. There's a tradition in my family where you get The Hobbit read to you before you're old enough to read it yourself. So even as a family, it's Lord of the Rings is kind of a family thing. All right, let's see. This is Turning Pro by Stephen Pressfield. We're talking about the characteristics of the amateur. The amateur seeks instant gratifications. There was a popular bumper sticker a few years ago. Too much ain't enough. Too much ain't enough, and too soon is too late. The amateur, the addict, and the obsessive wants all. The amateur, the addict, and the obsessive all want what they want now. The corollary is that when it get to it, it doesn't work. The restlessness doesn't abate. The pain doesn't go away. The fear comes back as soon as the buzz wears off. The amateur is jealous. Because the amateur is so powerfully identified with herself, she finds it extremely difficult to view the world through the eyes of others. The amateur is often unkind or insensitive to others, but she saves her most exquisite cruelty for herself. The amateur's fear eclipses her compassion for others and for herself. All right. So I've got their physical books today. So let me pull up the auxiliary camera here and our light. Get some light on this subject. Let's see. Sable says, without Lord of the Rings, it's unimaginable how different Western culture would be. Heck, all media all over the world. LOTR spawned D&D, which is a bedrock for most video games. Nothing about the massive genre fiction. To say nothing about the massive genre fiction now. Yes. Extra camera. There we go. I changed out my playmat here. The other one was a bit dirty. So I went with, this is Yog-Sothoth. Yog-Sothoth is the gate, I believe. This is Yog-Sothoth. Yes, Yog-Sothoth is the gate. It's one of the ones that David had done. All right. It's one of my favorites. Fantastic pieces of art. All right, let's see what these books are. Okay, so this is Ruins from Eriador right here. In the westlands of Eriador, between the Misty Mountains and the Mountains of Lune, the hobbits found both men and elves. Indeed, a remnant still dwelt there of the Dunedain, the kings of men that came over the sea out of Westerness. But they were dwindling fast, and lands of their north kingdom were falling far and wide into waste. Eriador, the Lone Lands, describes the Lord of the Rings. Eriador, the Lone Lands, described in the Lord of the Rings, comes alive as never before in this supplement for the Lord of the Rings role-playing. The 5e adaptation. Oh, so this is a 5e adaptation of the One Ring tabletop role-playing game based on the works of J.R.R. Tolkien. A region that's described as deserted becomes a crucible for adventure, offering many hours of gameplay. I don't think that we've actually looked at the 5e version of this game before. Actually, I don't know how much have we actually looked at with this game. Oh, good morning, Wild Barley. Good morning. And David Power. Good morning. So yeah, it's a 5e supplement or 5e system right up here, because there is their own system, which is the One Ring. Now, we have looked quite a bit at the One Ring. So they do publish, we talked about a long time ago, things that are published in dual systems. And so their Lord of the Rings they publish it as both 5e and under the One Ring. Now, we've looked at the One Ring extensively, and in general, most of us around here seem to have liked that one. I have, and it seems to get a lot of credit. I know there are some people who don't like it, but there are some people who, a lot of people who think that it invokes the feel of the Lord of the Rings and Middle-earth very well, which I think is important. But I don't think we looked at the 5th edition. I did read the 5th edition at one time because when we were trying to think about what system to use for the for the Journey to the Tree of Sorrows role-playing game. And I was skeptical that you could do a 5e Lord of the Rings. But when I read it, I was more impressed than I thought I was going to be. Now, whether or not at the very ground level, what you think about the 5th edition system and whether or not you think it's ultimately suitable for the kind of story you want to tell in Middle-earth, okay, but they have another system for that. But if you liked 5e, I did think they did a pretty good job. My recollection was that they did a better job than I was anticipating with coming up with a 5e Lord of the Rings adaptation. For one thing, all of the character classes were custom. It didn't have just fighter, wizard, druid, bard, all of the classic 5e. It had completely redesigned classes for the Lord of the Rings, and I think that helped. And of course, it had other things as well. But I thought that I had the 5e book, but I guess I don't. I guess now I just have these 5e books. But if I were just going to play, I would play the One Ring, I think. But if you've got people who you just cannot get away from 5e, well, why not? Oh, right, yep. No, we're looking, this is the 5e, yeah. I don't know why I got these. They just showed up. I think they must have been part of the Moria Kickstarter, because obviously the Moria stuff isn't here yet. But I think this must have been something about a Kickstarter, and so I guess, I don't know, I guess they were just on this or something. I haven't backed as many things on Kickstarter, but I guess I don't know why these are 5e. Lynn says, the very first D&D campaign I ever played in with the original sets of 3 little booklets was set in Middle-earth. Let's see. Okay. So this is the Tales from Eriador, and this says, now they had not gone far into the Lone Lands, and there were no people left, no inns, and the roads grew steadily worse. Not far ahead were dreary hills, rising higher and higher, dark with trees. On some of them were old castles with an evil look, as if they had been built by wicked people. The compendium contains 6 adventures. Oh, this is an adventure book. This contains 6 adventures for the Lord of the Rings role-playing, a 5th edition adaptation of the One Ring tabletop role-playing game based on the works of J.R.R. Tolkien. All set in the Lone Lands in the northwestern Middle-earth, the adventure can be played individually or as part of a larger tale. Ancient evils awake as the Dark Lord stretches forth his hand. Over the course of these adventures, the heroes may thwart the spies and stratagems of the enemy, exploring long-lost wonders of the North and travel far from hearth and home. Preserve the spark of hope, and one day these empty, wounded lands shall be healed. Fail, and all will be destroyed. So, okay, so this one is an adventure book. I still love their layout. Oh, yeah. We didn't breathe and sip. We did our reading, but we forgot to breathe and sip. Man, thank you for the reminder. All right, I got my drink this morning. Let's do a breathe and sip. 2 deep breaths, complete inhales, complete exhales, and then take a sip. Here we go. And sip. Yeah, I do really like the art and the layout. Let's see. To Andrew's point. Yes. Iron Crown Enterprise did have the license for Middle-earth games, and this was actually the very first role-playing game that I ever got. And I did cover this game on the channel. It was before we went live. You know, we could look at this live. This was. There's some fun things in this book. And when we went over it not live, we did talk about, well, there are a lot of other things in here that might not necessarily invoke the feel of Middle-earth. Quite the same way, but a lot of people did play this, and it does have a fantastic critical system. If you're into the this kind of style of game, it's based on Rollmaster, so we could look at this live one day. But I did go over it extensively before I was doing live streams. All right, let's open this up. And I think they still publish. I think, like their high adventure role-playing game. I haven't played that, though. So this is published under the Open Gaming license. I see. So it does say product identity notice, because we talk about licenses. Seems like quite a bit here. The following items are hereby identified as product identity as defined by the Open Game License version 1.0a and are not open content. All trademarks, proper names, characters, places, names, etc., new rules, classes, callings, items, virtues, backgrounds, places, characters, artwork, sidebars, and trade dress. Open game content. The open content of this book includes material taken from the system's reference document. No other portion of this work may be reproduced in any form without permission. So it just accesses the system reference document. First published in 2023. I wonder, of course, you wonder when the book was in development, but why they went with that. All right, so what have we got in here instead of the Creative Commons? Oh, let's see. So we've got, looks like 3 chapters here: Fog over Eriador, A Gathering Storm, and Landmarks. It doesn't really tell me what. See, the Fog over Eriador, can you see? It says it's going to be covering the city of Tharbad, Swan Fleet, Londar, the dwarf halls of Harmelt, the ruins of Cardalon, Vorn, the lone lands of Menhireth, and the men of Eriador. whereas the Gathering Storm is going to cover the Black Numenorians, the White Hand of Saruman, raiders from Dunland, and other shadows. Landmarks include the Old Dwarf Mines, the White Towers, the Tree of Sorrow. Speaking of a Tree of Sorrow, the Shrouded Islets, Tyndalion, an elven refuge, the Queen's Hall, the Fields of Slaughter, Weathertop, the Hills of the Sleeper, Mount Graham, Fort Arliss, and the Ranger Haven. All right, so what is this book? All right, let's look at the introduction here. After Arvenduri, the North Kingdom ended. That must be in a different language. For the North Kingdom ended, the Dunedain were now few, and the people of Eriador diminished. What you hold in your hands is a guide to people inhabiting the lone lands of southern Eriador, the place they dwell in, and the hopes that they hold for their future in the Twilight Age. It is intended primarily for the lore master who can find among these pages the inspiration they require to bring Middle-earth to life as the player heroes explore it. Players should refrain from reading this, with the exception of those parts detailing areas their characters might reasonably be knowledgeable about. The material presented in the ruins of Eriador assumes the date is the same as the one in Lord of the Rings role-playing game, the year 2965. So I believe, Andrew says, when I hear Weathertop, I think of the song Rocky Top, but substitute in Weathertop. I believe this game is set between The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. Year of the Lord of the Rings. I have also destroyed my... Okay, no, that's physical year. Shire Reckoning. The last year of the Third Age. Well, maybe that's not Shire Reckoning. It says 2965. I'm not sure. I thought that okay, Lord of the Rings, okay, right. Lynn says Lord of the Rings was 1419 Shire Reckoning. Is this in the Second Age? Is this set in the Second Age then? Maybe the 5th edition is set in a different time. I wish it gave me a bit more information than just saying, hey, it's the same as the date. 3019. Okay, that makes more sense. So 3019 Third Age. So not according to Shire Reckoning, 3019 Third Age. That would make more sense if this is 2965 of the Third Age. So we're at the end of the Third Age, which makes sense to me. Now, the Middle-earth role-playing game had broken away from that, and this was set in the Second Age. Yeah, Middle-earth role-playing... Oh, no, Second Edition, not Second Age. But this was set in the Second Age. But most people, I think, would want to play during the Third Age. So I think setting their game between The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings was a good choice. So the Ruins of Eriador complements the setting information presented in Lord of the Rings role-playing game core rules, in particular the material found in Chapter 9, The World, and in the appendix. Chapter 1, The Fog over Eriador. Okay, so this tells me actually what they are. Chapter 1, The Fog over Eriador, expands the possibilities for adventure, including regions of southern Eriador once part of the Kingdom of Arnor. The city of Tharbad and its troubled history is given special attention, as it may serve as the starting point for the adventure of a company of player heroes focused on exploring the Lone Lands. Chapter 2, A Gathering Storm, provides the lore master with a set of narrative elements that can be used to determine the fate of Eriador. What is contained in this chapter is the product of speculation and can be employed as presented or altered as the lore master sees fit to better tailor the setting to the player's choices. In a few words, it constitutes a possible future for the land of Eriador as a whole, offering the description of many looming threats complete with lore master characters and their agendas. Chapter 3, Landmarks, adds 12 sites of interest to be presented in the core volume. The locations depict both historical sites mentioned in The Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit, and others that have been invented specifically for the game. They all conform to the format presented in the outline of page 220 of The Lord of the Rings role-playing, and are meant to be used in conjunction with the guidelines presented here and the information contained in Chapter 2 of the present volume. Okay, so landmarks are sites of interest. Chapter 2 sounds like the bad guys and things that could possibly happen. Whereas Fog over Eriador is about the southern Eriador, once part of the kingdom of Arnor. I think we just covered you, Lope. So before the Lord of the Rings. So 2965 Third Age would be 45 years before the War of the Ring. The Hobbit year Third Age. I have destroyed another keyboard. $50, 55 years. I thought it was about 50 years. I thought I had remembered 50 years before the start of the Lord of the Rings. I knew Lynn was on top of it. Lynn says The Hobbit should have been around 2960. So this would be 5 years after that. Let me see. I found something online. 29. I destroy them regularly. At least once a year. 2965. It's really irritating. 2960. 2953 is the last meeting of the White Council. Why doesn't this actually just tell me smog? You would think this the whole thing, if you're looking at the years. Well, it's probably not important. Oh, Battle of Five Armies. The Battle of Five Armies is in 2941. Yeah, a lot happened in that year. So this is 2941. So this is 24 years after The Hobbit. There we go. It's because I do everything here at my office. I do everything here at this desk, which means inevitably something gets spilled on it, or something gets knocked into it, or something like that. Exactly. It's a lot of writing and eating here at the keyboard, eating here in the office. I have not seen mass combat rules. I have not seen that in any of the Lord of the Rings or the One Ring stuff that we've been looking at. I don't know if it's in the 5e rules or not. I don't remember it in the 5e rules, but it's been a while since I've looked. Yeah, no, and I have to have a computer and a good keyboard. This last one just had oil spilt into it. At least it's just the keyboard, not whole laptops. All right, so the empty land, making southern. So that was all that to find out that yes, we're about 50 years or 55 years before the Lord of the Rings, about 25 years after the Hobbit. So that's plenty of time to have a bunch of great adventures in a time when stuff that most people know and actually want to engage with is going on. Other people can take it and do Numenor and Second Age and stuff. Making Southern Eriador a living, breathing setting for role-playing game requires a loose interpretation of those parts of the stories that dealt with the region. For example, in the Tale of Years presented in Appendix B of Lord of the Rings, the entry for the year 2912 states that Tharbad was ruined and deserted as a consequence of both great floods that struck the area. In the present volume, we've chosen to read that as Tharbad being mostly abandoned, but the town limps on under unlawful rule of bandits for another 2 generations. The land is still lonely and unpopulated, but role-playing games need people to talk to, so whenever possible, we've added characters. If you choose to interpret the words of Tolkien differently, then Tharbad and Laundare might both be desolate and empty by 2965. So fog over Eriador. But the northern land had long been desolate, and the northern road was now seldom used. So I do want to, so we do have at the front this map of Tharbad. But we did look, well, no, it was in the One Ring. Oh, we got a fold-out map here. I was wondering, so I guess the 5th edition book also uses the maps here, the hex maps for overland travel. Unfortunately, this kind of looks a lot like the one that is in the One Ring book. I was hoping you got a different map, because in order to use their travel maps or their travel system, you've got to use this hex map. And so I was hoping you got something different. Or maybe a different scale. Where is the One Ring? So this is the One Ring. Oh, yeah, it looks like the same map. Well, we've got some different numbers over here. So this tells you where the landmarks are. I guess that's what they were going for. The Old Dwarf Mines, the White Towers, the Tree of Sorrows, the Shrouded Islets, Tyndalin, the Queen's Hall. I guess that's marking it on the map for you. So a lot of adventure to be had. It's expecting you to do a lot of adventure in this region. Let's see what this is. Okay, let's see. Did we nuke him? Okay, I don't see him in the chat anymore. James says, I really like games that can be plugged into a well-known setting during important events, but elsewhere. You can play the game and take the actions you want. But you can feel the impact of different important events without being bound in by your suspension of disbelief for deviating from the story property. No kingdom management that I know of. Yeah, I'm excited to get Moria. I hope I got the One Ring version of Moria. Let's see what this map is. Let's see. Tharbad. Oh, it's the large map of Tharbad. Fold-out map. Our locations include the New Gatehouse, the Red Palace, Captain's Mansion, Town Market, the Bridge Inn, Toll Gate, Hellcar Tower, Garth Taran, home of Amelia Karn, House Without Windows, Rengel Tower, the Roadhouse, the Stone of Two Kingdoms Old Library. That's also a very, it's printed on some really thick paper. So that's nice. So a day's travel outside Bree lies the Lone Lands, deserted lands, ruins of the Old Kingdom. Once these lands were tame and plentiful. Today they have grown wild. To the south of Bree was the kingdom of Cardolan. Elves called the region Men Hiriath, the land between the rivers, bound by the Brandywine to the north and the Grey Flood to the south. What is now the Shire of the Hobbits was once the vineyard of the kings of old. But there are dozens of other stretches of once fruitful territory in the lone lands. No one dwells there. War and plague and the eternal hatred of the enemy destroy the folk who live there. Elsewhere there are ruins of the old kingdom. A bridge of stone, a patch of paved road, a lonely watchtower, but one must travel for much longer than a single day between the glimpses of the past. The slow-moving waters of the Grey Flood mark the region's southern border. Beyond it, the land becomes even more desolate. Treeless moors, dusty plains, sucking marshes. This is Endwaith, the Middle-earth land between kingdoms. A traveler might be forgiven for thinking that the enemy brought ruin to this place, but worse evils here were done by men, and the land has not forgotten their cruelty. Endwaith is a bitter land, a region of old battlefields and new ambushes, a harsh land for the harsh folk who dwell here in hidden places. In the south, it rolls into Dunland, and on the banks of the Eisen River that flows from the Gap of Rohan. Turn west, follow the river to the sea. The west coast in Middle-earth is steep and stony, with few good places to land. For twice the world has been utterly changed. Westwardly lands drowned out by the wrath of the Valinor, and now waves crash against the rocks that stood far inland. The few harbors the river mouth are prized, and the remnants of ancient fortifications can be seen in such places. The western road is far as anyone can flee the growing darkness of the east, as for seas are now bent. For the seas are now bent, and only the elves can escape. Oh, bent as in the earth is now curved. The western coast is as far as anyone can flee the growing darkness in the east, for the seas are now bent, and the only elves can escape. Once the shadow rises, when Eriador is where the free folk, if the shadow rises, then Eriador is where the free folk will make their final stand. We did like the One Ring travel rules. We made specific study of that on the Morning Grind a few months ago. So if you look up like Journey, I think it was called Journey Rules or something. If you look up the One Ring, we did specifically do an analysis of a deep dive really into its travel rules. And overall, we liked them. And overall, I think we did come to the conclusion that we liked them. They are a bit narrative. Well, no, I don't want to say that. They might be more narrative than you're expecting if you want them to be like tracking resources hex by hex. It doesn't really do that. But it is a crunch. It gives you crunch for traveling hex to hex, but it does interpret it in a bit more of a narrative way than you might be used to if you actually want to be checking off water rations and food rations and things. But I think overall we liked it. The city of Tharbad. These are the dying days of Tharbad. Everyone knows it, especially those who have witnessed the city's slow decline over the years. They know that Tharbad has always shambled from crisis to crisis. The city is an immense wounded beast, a heavy creature wallowing on the muddy river, too stubborn and hungry to ever give up. But Tharbad has suffered a mortal injury and will soon fall. It will be one more ruin of the old kingdom, silent and abandoned. This is an astounding thing if you think about it. Tharbad is ancient. If indeed these last days of the old are the last days of the old city, then great changes are in the air, and turning of an age is at hand. Old lore. There's been a settlement at the crossing of the Grey Flood since men first came into the world. But times grind hard, stones to meal, slays kings, and ruins towns, and the Tharbad of today is very different from that of old. The first two ages of the world. Let's see. Let's just see what is all in this book in general. So I do like these pictures. So the bridge across. So where is let's take a look at Tharbad, I believe. The Londar is down here. I thought Tharbad was over here. Where is Tharbad? I actually probably would have picked out where Londar is for Tharbad. Let's see, we're going over a river. Forland, the Grey Havens right there. Where is this? Of course, it's not just give me a map. Oh. Oh, it's further in. Oh. Oh, it's up here. It's up here. It's further inland. Oh. I thought it was up. I thought it was by the coast, but it's further inland. So Londar is the one that's near the coast. Tharbad is up here. So that's actually, so Moria is right over here. So if you were playing a game, maybe that's why they chose to release this with the Moria box or Moria Kickstarter. So Moria is over here. Tharbad is over here. So the third bridge, third age, days of decline, present day, a guide to Tharbad, the outer districts, the South Bank, the Middle Island, the North Bank, Tharbad is a safe haven. Tharbad is certainly not as welcoming or as warm a place as Rivendell or the Shire. It's a rotting town of thieves and brigands, ruled by a former warlord. However, the empty lands of southern Eriador is as close to a safe haven as one might find. It's certainly secure enough. The walls of Tharbad may be broken, but it's heavily fortified and easy to defend. It does offer a place to rest as long as the heroes do not break Gunro's laws or offend his cronies. They may sleep here soundly. Now, a safe haven also offers wise counsel and restores hope and courage. Places like Rivendell or Lorien are islands of light in the darkness and guard the promise of a better world. Tharbad is an island, but there's little light left, and Gunro is certainly no elf lord or a good king. He's not wholly evil. He is corrupt and venal, and that makes him a poor patron. If anything, it may be the player heroes who guide Gunro, or it's Gurnau, who guide Gurnau. I got the R and the N reversed. So Gurnau toward wisdom, or it might be they who overthrow him. If there is hope here, it is in the hearts of the ordinary folk of Tharbad, who endure under Gurnau's undurous protection. People like Agna, page 11, can offer the heroes wise counsel. Amelia Kern or Gweleth may give the heroes aid or dispatch them on missions. Tharbad only marginally qualifies as a safe haven, but if the heroes spend time here, they can nurture the light that's hidden here. If they do not, it will soon be snuffed out. Swan Fleet. So that's right next to it. Tharbad over here. And so what is Swan Fleet? Swan Fleet says, oh, it's marshes. Scholars and travelers consider the vast marshland known as Swan Fleet to be uninhabited, save for hosts of swans and other water birds. Curiously, this vast network of swamps and pools may instead be one of the most densely populated regions in Eriador. For Swan Fleet is home to the lost, and those who fled the enemies and misfortunes. The local folk have many forefathers, the tribes of wild men who lived in the vast wood of Eriador and were driven from their homes by the foresters of Numenor. Numenorian settlers who fled the coming of Sauron, folk from the North Kingdom who escaped the civil wars or the war with Angmar. So a swamp here. Whereas Londir, and this is the one that's further south, follow the Grey Flood to the sea, and it leads to the Firth and the town of Londar, it's D-A-E-R. Dying Tharbad clings to its proud history. Reborn Londar is almost wholly ignorant of its more ancient lineage. Thousands of years ago, this place was the new haven of the Sea Kings, the first outpost of the Numenorians beyond their enchanted isle. It was here the mariners of Numenor built their great ships to voyage north and south, exploring all the shores of Middle-earth that are permitted to mortals. Here there were fought in ancient days against wild folk in the forests and the forces of the enemy. It was here the enemies of the West came ashore in all their might and glory and marched to rescue the elves in their first war against Sauron. In time, the name New Haven no longer fit, and the city became Londar Edith, the great middle haven, for it was located between the southern havens of Pelgir and Umbar, and the northern elf havens of the Gulf of Lune. With the establishment of Tharbad and the deforestation of Menhireth and Edwaith, the importance of the middle haven declined, and the harbor was no longer thronged with a forest for tall masts, but was the banner of the king of the west. But always the banner of the king of the west fluttered above its topless towers. Decline and Resurgence. This seems like a pretty good book. It seems like it is doing what I would want it to do. And of course, a lot of this would go for either one of these games. It's just that we've got the D20 rules and for all the stat blocks for all the characters. The Ruins of Cardolan. The brief glow fell upon a huge sitting figure, still and solemn as the great stone kings of Argonath. The years had gnawed it, and violent hands maimed it. Cardolan's history, from founding to destruction, is regrettably brief. The sons of the High King of Arnor quarreled, and the northern kingdom was divided between them, making 3 new kingdoms: Arthedain in the north, Rudar in the east, and Cardolan in the south. There was much strife between the kingdoms, especially over the claim on the Weather Hills, and whether the kings of while the kings of Cardolan fought, they were ever wary of the wastes of Edneth across the river. There were many sullen foes, yet dwelt in hills and wild places. The Ghosts of the Plague Years. I think this would be a fun place. Oh, the Barrow people. It is told in their last days, the lords of Cardolan found refuge in the hills to the east of the Old Forest, amid the Barrow Downs. When the plague ravaged the land, some among them burnt their houses in desperation and took shelter in the houses of the ancient dead. Many travelers journeyed along the Greenway and entered the narrow gorge known by the name Andreth, swear to have seen the descendants of these folks still living among the crumbled barrows. These barrow dwellers are pale, gray, and gaunt, looking more dead than alive. They have forgotten the tongues they once knew and speak only the language of the dead. They worship the corpses of kings upon the slab, and though they wear only rags, they fight with swords of ancient design. They see other living beings as monsters, as horrible in their eyes as a wight or wraith. Yeah, it's... I guess there is a One Ring version. Who knows? Maybe I just made a mistake when I ordered this one. Men of Eriador. Okay, a gathering storm here. Far away east and south, there was war and growing fear. The Black Numenorians. I've always liked the Black Numenorians. I thought they make good bad guys. Okay, let's see. The true tale of years for Eriador is unwritten. The history recorded in the Red Book of Westmarch does not relate precisely to what became does not relate precisely who became of Londar or Tharbad, or the folk living along the coasts. These histories only tell the king returned in 3019 and brought better days to this benighted region, but there may be many unfinished or lost tales that tell what happened in the Lone Lands in the many decades before the War of the Ring. This present chapter describes threats looming over coming years in southern Eriador, outside forces and spies that have recently entered the region, or potentially internal conflicts that will soon come to the fore. These include the schemes of major players like the Black Numenorians and the White Hand of Saruman, the actions of the raiders from Dunland, and more. Each threat description includes a number of potential strokes, including the undertakings that will advance the threat's agenda. They are listed under dark designs heading in each section in a chronological tale of years format. The lore master should take these entries into consideration to weave them into a company's adventuring phases or fellowship phases, as rumors, for example, building on the suggestions presented, or evaluating how deeds of the player heroes may affect them by taking actions against these strokes during the adventuring phase. The company can prevent the danger from growing. So we got Black Numenorians. The mission to Eriador. Key foes. That's quite an ornate guy right here. Black Numenorian spies, corsairs of Umbar. Dark designs of the Black Numenorians. The Black Numenorians intend to sail up the Grey Flood as far as they could and then send scouts inland among the river to seek hidden valleys. But the existence of the settlement of Londar forced them to change their plans. They must move more slowly, now with greater emphasis on corruption and secrecy. So this is what they were talking about, the timeline format about what they're doing. The journey to Angmar. Blood in the Swan Fleet. The White Hand of Saruman. What is Saruman doing? It says, at this point in the history, the wizard Saruman is still the head of the Astari, the leader of the White Council and the chief foe of the enemy. He has already begun to walk the ruinous path that will one day destroy him, but who can say when courage turns to folly or prudent wisdom becomes callous intellect? Once all the wizards were wanderers, traveling the length and breadth of Middle-earth to inspire heroes and prepare nations for the war to come against the enemy. They first came to Middle-earth around the year 1000 of the Third Age, after the division of the North Kingdoms into the three lands of Arthedain, Cardalon, and Rudaur. And Saruman was even the counselor and confessor to kings both north and south. Now, Saruman has taken the fortress of Isengard as his home, as he prepared for the final conflict in the enemy. Black Numenorians, or Jagoffs, as they are known to the Maihar. Let's see. It says the shades of white and gray here. It says, avoid making Saruman a premature villain. He is on the cusp of moral failure, but he hasn't fallen yet. In TA 2965, Saruman is still mostly on the side of good. Not wholly. He is quite willing, for example, to undermine Rohan in order to build up the strength of his Dunlanding allies, and does not hesitate to treat lesser beings as mere playing pieces, to be moved or sacrificed in the pursuit of advantage in the great game between the wizards and Sauron. The seeds have already been sown that will lead to his downfall. Overconfidence in his own intellect, condescension toward lesser minds, and conviction that only he knows how to save the world, despite the weakness of the free people, fear of Sauron, and most of all, the seductive mortal pragmatism of believing that compromise and mitigation are desirable outcomes in the war against evil. The Hunt for Ring lore. Agents of Saruman. Saruman is a patron. A company earning the patronage of the White Wizard gains a very powerful ally. Saruman is willing to generously support those who follow his counsel, especially if they don't ask too many questions. The wizard will contact the player heroes exclusively through intermediaries, only requesting a meeting in matters of extreme urgency or to relay secret news. When this happens, Saruman may counterfeit his appearance and should travel incognito, for example, assuming the likeness of one of his fellow wizards, or he may disguise himself as a harmless wanderer. Saruman will generally choose Tharbad as a meeting place. Interesting. I hadn't really thought about that. You know, a lot of people use Radagast as a patron for PCs. I think with a lot of good reason. But yeah, at this time, you could also do Saruman. That would be interesting to have the heroes working for Saruman at some point. So the designs of Isengard laid out here. We bring Moria into this. 2972. The dwarves of Moria were close allies to the elves of Eregion, the makers of the Rings of Power. If the lore of the ring making was preserved anywhere after the destruction of Eregion, then it might be within the halls of Khazad-dûm. Rumor reaches Isengard that a few foolhardy treasure hunters have dared past the West Gate and explore the fabled Black Pit. There's been no sign of the lost ruling ring in nearly 3,000 years. No doubts rolled down the Anduin to the sea and there to lie until the end. But there can be a new beginning, a new forging of rings. The intent of Sauron may have been evil, but the design was sound. Let the free peoples be guided by a wise and cunning mind, and the lore needed to bring about that work might be found in Moria. That's an interesting adventure hook. Alatar and Palando would be useful too. Yes. Now we are the Raiders from Dunland. Eaters of Ghosts. Eater of Ghosts. Oh, this is one particular character right here. Eater of Ghosts comes from the dark places under the hills. She paints her face skull white, for she walks in the other world, a land of the dead. Even though she's young, she speaks with the voices of many old men and knows things that no young woman should know. It is said of Eaters of Ghosts that she consumes the dead and makes them part of her. Eater of Ghosts has no love for the wizard Saruman. She says that she mistrusts the master of Isengard because she remembers the men who built the fortress long, long ago, and knows they are no friends of the hill folk. Still, when the white hand points north, Eater of Ghosts goes, not because she loves or obeys the wizard, but because of her belly is empty and the barrows of Tiryn Gorthod are full and ripe for plundering. The dark designs of the Dunlandings. And then other shadows, including the beast of the Grey Flood. A water serpent dwells in the lower reaches of the Grey Flood. The walker in the darkness. It is said that an unwise lord of the north of Minherith wishes to sow wheat in a particular field, so ordered his followers to clear and level the land. Now a barrow grave of ancient kings stood in the field, lost beneath the grass and wildflowers, and the workers did not know what they had done until they broke through the burial chamber. Uh-oh. A dream of Moria. Khazad-dûm, the oldest of cities, the legendary fortress of Durin, fell 1,000 years ago when Durin's bane awoke. The dwarves have long dreamed of reclaiming that fabled place. In years past, burglars and dwarven pilgrims alike sometimes dared enter the upper levels of ruin, seeking treasures and relics led by Durin's folk. It would be fun to do something in Moria. Oh, right. Yeah. As patrons. I know that's what you're talking about. Yeah, as patrons, I mean. They have a are they good or are they bad mysterious to them. And also have the advantage of being nearly completely undeveloped, right? So you can do with them as you please. Many of these trespassers fell victim to the orcs that ruled Moria's halls. As the orcs grew more and more numerous, fewer dared brave the long dark of the pit. About 200 years ago, there was a war between orcs and dwarves over the matter of the murder of King Thror. The dwarves won the Battle of the Dimral Dale, but did not enter Moria, and young Dane Ironfoot, now king under the mountain, famously said that the world must change before Durin's folk walk again in Moria, and forbade his followers to return there. Now, after the Battle of Five Armies broke the power of the orcs, many in Eriador looked again to the treasures of Moria. Just because Durin's folk are not trying to return to Khazad-dûm, that doesn't mean that another line of the dwarves cannot reign there. That would also be fun. I think there's a lot of fun to be played in Middle-earth. And a lot of fun to be had in Middle-earth. Some people think that, some people don't because they don't want, because they think all the story has been told. And I get that. I would try to make sure that the story fits around the story of Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit and all of that. That would be part of the fun to me. Like people like Drake say that that's not the case, that they want something completely new and fresh. But I think there are adventures to be had in Middle-earth. I would love to get to role play there. All right, I think we'll return to that book. I'm interested in looking and seeing what more of that book is, and then we won't go into the spoilers and stuff with Tales of Eriador. That's the adventure book, but I do want to at least see what that adventure book is like. Yes. Oh, hey, PH. It's been long, too long. Yes, I always thought the Rings of Power would have done well to have been set in the east and the south following Alatar and Palando. We haven't heard that story. Instead, yeah, I think so too. All right, well, I am going to try to get in the zone of work here for the rest of today and tomorrow, at least. Tomorrow's Saturday? Okay, so it's New Year's Eve isn't until Sunday, right? So there is work to be done here. I got to power through it all. Let's go ahead and get the jump on 2024. Let's go ahead and get a jump on it and make some great things happen. So, or on the other hand, maybe you're just completely still chilling and hanging out. Maybe do some gaming if you don't have to be back at work. All right, I am out of here. I'm going to go get work done. Everybody go forth, be creative, be constructive, and grind on. Later.